Right, we're back live with you tonight on In Focus. Cultural strategist Dr Sipho Sithole says no arts and culture minister, regardless of their efforts, appreciation and commitment to the arts, will ever be considered a hero of the industry. In an opinion piece, Dr Sithole, who's also a member of the National Arts Council, argues that any budget allocated to the arts is little and will always result in dissatisfaction from the artists. Dr Sithole joins us now to elaborate further on this. Joba, good evening, and thank you very much for your time and coming on tonight on In Focus. Immediately, of course, we pull that line because I suppose it's the line that most artists are going to jump to. They're saying, what is he saying? No minister, regardless of their effort and appreciation and commitment to the arts, will ever be a hero in this industry. Are you trying to make a case for past ministers who've departed who we deem have been particularly useless in this particular space? Or are you sounding a warning for the incoming minister to say, hey, don't think you're going to be a hero. It's a tough terrain that you're coming into.
Hey, Mjoli. It was a very difficult article for me to write because, I came into this sector out of passion. I'm a corporate strategist. I've been working in the private sector, in the SOEs. I came into the arts because I just love the arts. But my eyes have been wide opened and thinking that this was just an easy terrain, that you just come in and then you are successful and then you live happily ever after. And I spend more time, as a cultural strategist, I spend more time reading and doing a benchmarking and looking at what other countries are doing. But I also spend more time looking at our very same department, which is the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, to try and understand exactly its remit, its mandate. What is it that it is trying to do, and whether it is understood by the recipients of the doings, by the beneficiaries, the artists themselves across all the cultural domains. Yeah. And I come to one conclusion. It will never be understood by most art practitioners, only because of how it is viewed and the extent to which they understand the scope of the department itself. Yeah. And I make an argument in this article. And I make it knowing very well that I am going to be probably attacked, to say that one of the things that I've seen, the trend and the challenges, is that there is one particular sector of the artistic community, and that is the ones that are holding the mic, who have the public platform either in the performing arts sector in the main. They're either musicians or actors in film, TV, and so forth. And those are the ones who are most vocal. And because of that, the general populace then tend to think that the department is only about music, is only about actors, theater. And they don't know how big the responsibility of this department is, particularly against the budget that it receives. I think that is one part that I'm really, really angry about, around how our government, particularly the National Treasury and the Minister of Finance, understand the role of this creative economy, or of the creative sector, its contribution to the GDP, the number of people it employs, and so forth, against the budget that it gives. Because even that particular department, National Treasury and the Minister of Finance, I believe they've got a very narrow understanding of what the department is all.
So are you saying, man, in a sense that, look, because of the limitation, the fiscal limitations, right, there are creative ideas that will probably never get recognized, that will never be funded, and therefore those artists should, I suppose, be content with the fact that they've created the ideas and were able to some extent package those ideas in whatever shape or form.
I think that's exactly what I'm saying, that the nature of the sector itself is about the battle of ideas. Against a limited budget, not all ideas will actually see the light of day. And those that don't see the light of day will actually be bitter and find someone else to blame, not realizing that even if you had a budget, there is no country that will be able to fund all the ideas submitted wherever. And because it's a creative sector by nature, you have to then accept that you are not always going to be recognized for whatever talent that you think you have. I can speak at a personal level with my own record company, Native Rhythms. I have submitted songs on radio where the compilers come to me with respect and say, Babu Sithole, this song is not going to make it to radio. Instead of being bitter and accusing radio, I just go back to the studio and try again. There are videos that we have shot in this country that have never seen the light of day. And I'm not going to be bitter about it because that's the nature of the creative landscape. Either your idea is bad or it's good. Yeah. It can be good, but it will never be funded because not everyone is going to be funded.
So, I mean, some artists can argue that, look, it's a bitter pill to swallow, especially coming from someone who would have been in a position where you were entrusted with particular resources to say, you need to disperse this to artists. And you know the criticism of for the NAC that, well, you distributed that amount of money to the well-known guys, to your friends, to those who are closer to you, and you left us with our ideas being dissatisfied. So are you telling us that this is always going to be the case?
It will always going to be the case, especially because the judging process, whether I talk about the SAMAs, South African Music Awards, or it's about the National Arts Council or the National Film and Video Foundation, there will be submissions. There will be a panel which is totally independent, that we don't even get involved. Even myself as a member of the council or board, as you might say, we don't get involved. We get recommendations, and we get thousands of applications, and only a few get funded. I mean, I make an argument in the paper that in the national calls that we have made since I've been here, in the last 2 national calls, we have received 4,000 applications and funded 139 or 300 and something applications. Those applications, when they come in, the value, some of them are in almost R1 billion, but you only have 26 million rands given to you. By who? By, again, National Treasury. And about 2 weeks ago, we had a portfolio committee where I lost my cool. And I did say to the members, with respect of the portfolio committee, that I can't wait for the day when we will be called into this portfolio committee and hear the members of the portfolio committee calling National Treasury and Finance to say, why are you funding the creative sector so little? Rather than being called and we see them fighting amongst each other in grandstanding, and no one is concerned about the level of funding, but they will come and deal with the complaints, which most of them are actually unfounded, and get so excited about the issues that have got nothing to do with the funding. We want the funding to be at the level where we think we can make an impact, because right now we are not making a single impact. But in as far as the department is concerned of sport, arts and culture, it is responsible for 3 branches: sport and recreation, it's got heritage, it's got cultural development and promotion. You know how much the budget is? It's about 6 billion rands, of which half a billion goes to administration. The sector that I'm more passionate about, which is the culture and promotion and development, is about 1.5 billion for the whole department. And this department is responsible for the entire cultural domain, whether it's craft, is visual arts, is theater, is dance, and everything, with this 1.2 billion rands. At the NAC, when we did the PSP call, we received 2.3 billion rands worth of applications. It's even more than the total budget of the department. And this is what makes me really frustrated about sometimes when I want us to unleash our anger and go and camp at National Treasury, at the Minister of Finance's office, and say, this is where we need to direct our disappointment, because there's so much that a department or the NAC can do with this limited funding. And there is no minister, and I'm saying it again, that will come with all the good intentions and be a hero of this country.
But isn't it, that's precisely why they are not going to be heroes, because as the political faces of arts and culture, they are the ones, not the NAC, not you as an academic and writing papers. They should be making more noise to Treasury and actually getting more for this particular sector, as opposed to being happy, being driven around to award ceremonies and making speeches at soccer games and so on and so forth. They should be actually more concerned about the fact that 6 billion rands is not enough to be able to accommodate the creative ideas that exist in South Africa.
I fully agree with that assertion. And I mean, I don't sit, I'm not in the cabinet, not in parliament. I don't know the number of meetings or the cases they have made about that, whether they get listened to. But the issue is the attitude of government. They think that we are a sector for dance and celebrations and for rallies when it comes to elections. I think, let me just tell you something that I got shocked. Last year I was consulting for one of the foundations of one of the top financial services in this country. They are saying that we want to invest in the creation, right at the onset, in the platforms, in the infrastructure, but we cannot claim what they call the Section 18A, a tax incentive, because SARS does not see arts and culture as worthy to actually get a tax incentive. If I was a philanthropist and I decide to put 100 million rands into the arts sector, I cannot claim that. I would still be taxed as if I made money out of that 100 million rands. And when I inquired with the minister, the erstwhile minister, Natim Tet, I said, what is happening? He said, I've had discussions with Judge Dennis Davis, who's actually heading up that commission, to look at how they can ease that and make it easy for the private sector to go and donate and build an arts center in Mampuru. He said, I have not won. Because I don't know, because for me it's so simple. It just makes business sense. I mean, we are talking about an industry that contributes 74.3 billion rands in the GDP and employs about a million people. It's about 7.3% of total employment, and grows at the same rate as agriculture and mining. But it still has not been seen as worthy to actually have tax breaks. I mean, do I even claim tax break for recording artists from marginalized communities where I put my own money? I can't, because that's not how this government sees it. You go to France, for in 2010, I had an opportunity to go there as part of looking at how do we operationalize the cooperation agreement that had been signed between France and South Africa. I learned that it is law in France that when a national budget, when the Minister of Finance then announces his budget, at national, at provincial and local, there is already a set percentage that of the total budget, a certain percentage is dedicated to the arts. So there is no minister who's going to go and beg at the finance minister's office to say, hey, chief, please, man, ngicela ukundlusinike 10 billion. It's already automatic. If you've got a 1 trillion rand national fiscal budget, if you know it's 10% or 6%, it's already 6%. How you then disperse with it in terms of your program, then that becomes your business plan. But to go and beg for a budget, it's in France is unheard of. That's why you see them here. You see the French Alliance, the French Institute. You even see the French Institute in Portuguese-speaking countries, in Spanish-speaking countries, because of the push culture that they have adopted, you know. And we are a long way to go in terms of policy,
right,
and legislative reforms.
So
but the heart is.
You've mentioned, I mean, already that the department, one, it's sports and recreation, and then it's the cultural preservation part of it.
Then it's heritage.
Then, people have been saying, in fact, that's part of the problem. I don't know in terms of your benchmarking whether the separation of have a department of sports and have a department of arts would actually make any particular difference.
Let's just say, for argument's sake, I agree we put sport outside of the Department of Arts and Culture. The department still has to deal with galleries, museums, libraries, community arts centers. The entities of the department, about 26 or so of them, which is National Arts Council, National Heritage Council, the Resource Agency, the Robben Island Museum, and so forth, about 26 or so. They all have to be given that budget. Then you've got the creatives, which is us, who then submits these ideas to government. They are now outside of what already the department is funding. So the department now has this budget remaining, because they must now decide, do I give it to this idea or to that idea? So whether you separate the sport outside of arts and culture, which I actually would advocate, because I think it's better that way. The cultural domains as defined by UNESCO, they are just so huge that cannot be confused as only meaning music, theater, and television, And those domains need to be fully funded. How do you fund Abo Mama who are making craft, who want to be funded for their community arts center where they are weaving these craft things and now to ship them out in other countries? How do you fund a place just like here downtown where, my book is coming out on Wamai, which is really a center for cultural production of goods and services?
Yeah.
Who even funds them, Yeah. And it is a minefield, and it will. I don't know what will be the formula. One thing that I personally hate is every time there is a new minister, we get consulted. What are the problems of the industry?
Yeah.
That thing is tiring.
Yeah.
That thing is tiring. I told it to Paul Mashatile when he became Minister of Arts and Culture. I said to him, Comrade Paul, I just came back from France. I have a report. Just read this report that we are sent by the previous minister. And then tell me how you're going to implement our recommendations. He's now the deputy president. Never had feedback. Then there will be another minister who wants to consult, another minister who wants to consult. Where is the handover report from the erstwhile minister who says, look at the work that I've done in the last 5 years, we have done X, Y, Z. You are free to punch some holes and if there are gaps, but at least let's look at what has been done and what is yet to be done. And that's just the nature.
Let's talk about that a little bit. Because of course, when you write a piece like this, you back it up with what you have actually had a look at. What have we done? If there is anything that the Department of Arts and Culture can be proud of that they have done, what can we point to?
I think one of the flagship programs for me that really has always stood out is the Mzansi Golden Economy. And I think the name itself, Golden Economy, is the appreciation of the role of the arts and the creative sector in creating this economy that is so golden in this country, because it goes with the heart and the soul of the nation. Mzansi Golden Economy has really funded a number of ideas, whether it's touring ventures, whether it's cultural events, whether it's performances and so forth. And every year there is a call for that. And I'm also lucky that I go around the world and attend music and society conferences. And when we tell our story out there, they are so surprised. They say, we wish we were in South Africa. The continent, forget about the continent compared to what we do. Look at the COVID. The COVID relief was about 600 million rands. You ask the Zimbabweans, I was talking to one colleague at Varsity today, he said, we didn't get anything. There was nothing for the arts during the COVID, and anywhere else you go on the continent, there was nothing for the arts. And you look at this presidential employment stimulus package. If I speak for the NAC alone, the first one we got 300 million rands. And that 300 million rands says, open the call for creatives to submit their ideas across the 7 disciplines that we have. That's craft, that's dance, that's theater, that's music, that's multidiscipline, that's visual arts, and so forth. Let them come up with their ideas. Here's 300 million rands. We have a call now that is closing on the 31st, 282 million rands coming from the department. It's called the Presidential Employment Stimulus Package. But you look at I think in the last 5 years or so, it has funded about 250 community art centers. It opened an art bank. And there is SACO, which is the South African Cultural Observatory, which is a research hub for the creative industry that is generating information and data for the department to look at what the department needs to do in this country. And it's funding the galleries, it's funding the museums, it's funding the libraries and so forth, literature. The GPV, I think it is called there's something that was launched recently, the fight against GPV. New cultural institutions, there was one opened in Bebeja, and I think it's covered in the paper. There's an image of that. But if you go to the annual performance plan of the department, you're going to find it. It's there. And that's where some of some.
Now, I mean, just listening to you and just getting a sense of your frustration and the limited budgets. You know, the criticism is that whoever occupies that Department of Arts and Culture, Sports and Recreation lacks ideas. For example, the criticism was, well, Natim Teto is not really in the arts, so we need somebody like yourself or any other person who is in the arts who understands what the arts is. But not only that, somebody who will be able to draw the intersection, because, for example, if you're talking ladies doing beadwork, you're talking also cultural tourism, so there needs to be some kind of intersection with the tourism department. If you're talking film, there needs to be some kind of a business aspect to the film industry, which needs a whole lot of investment. So DTI would need to come in there and so on and so forth. So it would not just be the Department of Arts and Culture, Sports and Recreation that would look at it, but whatever minister is there would need to be able to pull in the other colleagues to be able to assist.
Maybe it's what comes out of the department that may have fallen short of people understanding and hearing. It's not the absence of what is happening. It's maybe the communication engine has not been. I'm talking about any other minister. Doesn't matter which minister it was. That the communication engine is not as smooth as it's supposed to be, because really we should not be confused about what this department is doing. If the communication was out there, because for instance, I will tell you that DTI and Arts and Culture, Sport Arts and Culture, have just collaborated in the production of the Creative Economy Master Plan 2040, which was approved by Cabinet, I think, in December last year or in November. I don't remember. And that document for me is a masterpiece document. But it is as good as nothing if it is not internalized and interpreted by the people who are supposed to implement it. Because if you look at the strategic framework of that Creative Economy Master Plan, it actually talks from creation to platforms to showcasing up to the market, you know. Now, all that has to happen is that the various role players, private and public sector, needs to then find their own space. That's why the First Rand Foundation that I was consulting for was saying, where do we fit in? We want to come in. And I said, do you know about the Creative Economy Master Plan 2040? We don't know. I said, now I'm going to share with you where this country is trying to head to by 2040. And then you must find your own space in that place. They were even arguing that they are sick and tired of funding performances on stage. They want to go to the development stage, to create, to fund infrastructure where this talent is coming from. After that, the talent can. So that was the work of DTI and department. But also, you'll see collaborations between the department and Foreign Affairs, or they call it DECO now, where you've got this South Africa season, whether it's in Germany, whether it's in Nigeria, whether it's in Ghana, where they take the our creative sector to those countries. Now, my first experience with the South Africa season was in 1998, by the way, and I was working at Ericsson Telecoms as the HR director, and I heard about it. I said to Ericsson, we must fund this. We must take artists there. And I went to Germany. That was my first experience. These South Africa seasons have been happening. Tourism then gets involved. DECO gets involved. But so there is this work that is happening.
Yeah, poor communication in a nutshell. I mean, is where we'll leave it. Job, let's leave it there because of time. And of course, you and I can talk about this the whole night. But I appreciate your time and thank you very much for coming on tonight.
Yeah, before the
all right, awesome. That is Dr Sipho Sithole, cultural strategist and member of the National Arts Council.